So one of the aspects of the Luck Index this year was the Golden Boot winner, and our analysis showed that Sergio Aguero came out on top. And another interesting finding was that Aubameyang, who was Golden Boot winner across the season, actually ended up 7th.
Okay, so we just heard there that according to the Luck Index, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in particular was fortunate this season. I mean, instant reaction, Melissa, do you recollect him being perhaps a little jammier than some of the others?
I think the amount is quite shocking. You usually expect forwards more than any other position to create their own luck and be fortunate, but I think it's staggering to think that so many goals would have been taken off him in situations I wouldn't have ordinarily thought that.
Well, he's a player that wants to run in behind, and there was a couple of offside decisions that went his way.
3 of them, I think.
3 offside decisions that went his way. He had a bit of luck with deflected goals as well. But when you actually saw him play this season, I was actually disappointed. Although he did well in terms of how many goals he scored, I was disappointed in his overall play. Now, when you saw him at Dortmund, he made great runs in behind. He looked electrically quick when he was making all those runs. I didn't really see that.
I think it's good when a striker benefits from luck, because it shows that they're, creating opportunities to get a look in the first place. So if you just beat the offside trap, if you get a deflected goal, or if you miss a penalty and follow it up, but I think that's good. I think strikers need to live on the edge, live on the on the chances, and just hope that something goes their way. So for me, that is a sign of a good striker, somebody who will persevere and put. They say the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I think from Aubameyang's point of view, it's great. You don't want to be an unlucky striker.
He won't be able to get away with it next year, though, will he?
Not
the offsides, anyway.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
This is the thing, right? So we're talking about, it's the old sort of you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, so you want people to be daring and whatever, but equally, you don't want them to take bad shots and hope that they get lucky, and luck over time supposedly evens itself out. Now, that's what people say about refereeing decisions. Peter, we'll get to that in a second, but Melissa, Robert, do you guys buy that luck evens itself out in the very long run? I mean, if he scores a lot of goals because he's lucky, for example, does that mean that maybe he shouldn't be paid as much, or he shouldn't be as highly regarded?
I don't think he scores as many goals primarily based on luck. I think when we're talking about these instances, it's come about because of his qualities. And like Mark says, being able to get in the positions and being able to force situations when nothing else is on. We don't want to use cliches and stuff, but that you have to create your own luck. You have to force matters. I don't think we can start saying, hang on, lucky, shave £50,000 off his weekly salary because of that. I think just by virtue of his attributes, he's got himself in the situation where he's created moments.
I think he was helped this season by playing in a front two with Lacazette. Sometimes he had to play slightly wider, but I think it worked well because they had front two that could link up with each other. They got more chances of scoring goals, more crosses were coming into the box.
Peter, when we talk about luck in this, we're talking about very specific things. Obviously, officiating decisions that could have been different impact a lot of this. From a referee's perspective, ideally, you want to look at every decision individually without considering what came before, what might come after, right?
Well, absolutely right. I mean, you referee for the moment. You don't referee for the past or for the future. So,
except when there's persistent fouling of the kind that Mourinho doesn't
correct,
like.
Correct. And then you log it as you go through. But in terms of giving that particular decision, Mark's mentioned it. If the guy's running on the shoulder of somebody or other, sooner or later he'll get a bit of luck because the official will miss it. We can talk about VAR for next season or so, but at the moment from last season, some of the officials missed it. So the more you do that, the more lucky you'll become.
So based on the Luck Index and the research from Dr. Tom, last season's Golden Boot was Sergio Aguero. Now, we can make a big deal out of this. Obviously, the margins are very slim between him, Mane, and Salah. But I guess it kind of stands to reason in the sense that he was a bit unlucky, and certainly City create a ton of shots and a ton of good chances. So at least that part seems plausible, right? Nobody has an issue with Aguero being the top goal scorer, do they?
No, I mean, I think the unlucky part of Aguero's game is that he's surrounded by so many players that can also score goals. So it's not all going through him, is it? I mean, there's Sterling, there's Sane, there's Gabriel Jesus, there's Bernardo Silva, there's David Silva. So all these guys that can occupy the space that that Aguero might take. So some clubs will have a striker who's the focal point of everything, and he might score. If he was playing for,
he's had to change his game slightly under Guardiola. Originally, he just wanted to be played between the goal or the penalty box, make runs in behind, get the ball into his feet, and get himself turned. Now he has to do more work closing down. He has to do more link-up play. He has to drop deeper so the wide players can make runs beyond him. So he hasn't been quite so lucky in the position he's playing as he had done before.
Absolutely.
I think he's actually a great credit to himself that he's, managed to, with the Luck Index, finish top, because, like Mark said, he's surrounded by so many goal scorers and there's so many threats at City. But for him to still be able to finish top of the pile while improving his all-round game, he's involved all the time now. Whereas before you just thought of Aguero as a finisher. Now he's, one of the playmakers for Manchester City. So, I think it's a great credit to himself.
He's also, I mean, he's a sensational player, Aguero. I think over the years in the Premier League, he's probably not received the credit he kind of deserves. I mean, I think he scored more goals in a short period of time than Thierry Henry did at Arsenal. But who's most celebrated? Henry, because he scores some spectacular goals, but Aguero scores spectacular goals. He's won trophies. He consistently scores 20+ goals a season.
I think he's a marvellous player. He's always been a marvellous player, but he has managed to make the system king rather than be individualistic. And I think he's massively profited from it. Obviously, City have profited from it. To your point, Gab, one of the issues I think is he hasn't really given many interviews and stuff, so you don't get a sense of who Sergio Aguero, other than the player on the pitch, is, which then makes it hard for people to, connect with him, and he doesn't really resonate. Perhaps that's why he doesn't get the credit. He's also been surrounded by quite a few brilliant players at City, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, and I think that because they don't see him as the be-all and end-all of Man City, it probably lessens how he's thought of. But I think, as with most cases, once he's no longer operating in the Premier League, people will think that Sergio Aguero was quite something.
I think if he played for Liverpool or Manchester United, he would have been one of the top 3 stars of the Premier League era, because I think it's also to do with the kind of the historic comparisons you can make. So if he was at Liverpool...
Here comes Ogden putting down City.
But if he played for Liverpool, you could compare him to Ian Rush, to Kenny Dalglish, to Fernando Torres, all these great players of the past. Same at United, Van Nistelrooy's, Ronaldo's. At City, he's kind of...
Sean Goder?
Exactly. But that is exactly the point, because there isn't really a kind of a recent history at City. You can't go back to the 60s and compare to Francis Lee, because it's a different age. But he's the start of a story at City where we all talk about the historic kind of traditions of clubs, and it's the same. If you've been at Arsenal again, compared to Henry, Ian Wright, there's not really a groundswell of legends at Man City over the last 40 years that you can be compared to. And I think that is why he doesn't find himself right at the very top.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPNFC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.